Hello everyone, I'm Matt Mitrovich, the Alternate Historian. We return once again to an episode of Warping History, my docu-series on the history of the online community of alternate historians. We begin by looking back at the comments from the last episode, and I'm pleased that I didn't get any comments correcting my mistakes or pointing out things I missed. Instead, I saw several people bemoan AlternateHistory.com's reputation for banning people. So the fact that this episode will heavily focus on one of the most infamous bans in AlternateHistory.com, I'm sure the comment section will be a place of respectful discourse. If you've been paying attention to Warping History, then you may have noticed I have talked a lot about S.M. Stirling, and for good reason. He is one of the most prolific authors in the genre, and is a damn good world builder in my humble opinion, who has been with the online community since the Genie days and stuck with the community when they immigrated to AlternateHistory.com. He workshopped many of his ideas online that became novels, which in turn inspired others to seek out more alternate history, thus creating a symbiotic relationship between author and community. Unfortunately, Stirling's relationship with other alternate historians could be rocky at times. For example, many alternate historians make a hobby out of picking apart Stirling's alternate histories for their lack of plausibility. The best example of this can be seen in his Draca series, which follows the history of a South African empire founded by British loyalists that enslaves most of humanity. Many alternate historians have criticized or tried to craft a more plausible version of the story, including AlternateHistory.com's founder, Ian Montgomery. Hell, even I published a 3-part video series detailing all the implausibilities of the Draca timeline. Perhaps the most famous work criticizing the Draca for online alternate historians was Decades of Darkness by Jared. Published in 2004 on AlternateHistory.com, the same year Ian permanently removed the directory and other pages, leaving only the forum, Decades of Darkness was originally posted on soch.history.whatif, but gained popularity on AlternateHistory.com. In Decades of Darkness, the early death of President Jefferson leads to the Embargo Act of 1807 never being repealed, and thus the New England states secede, causing the United States to become an aggressive and expansionist slavocracy. Jared concluded the timeline in 2009, but its style was highly influential on other members of the site. It has also won multiple Turtledove Awards, AlternateHistory.com's annual award given out to the best content that members produce, and obviously named after the alternate history author, Harry Turtledove. In fact, such criticism of the Draca timeline is so widespread that even Stirling was forced to acknowledge it. In a 2008 interview, after being asked what fascinates or repels readers about the Draca, Stirling responded, "Well, it's supposed to be a dystopia, but any society that lasted that long would have to have some attractive features. Besides, part of the challenge of using the bad guys for POV was to force people to identify with them, and then go ick mentally. There's a small internet industry of proving that the domination couldn't happen. I consider this a compliment. How many people go on at great length trying to prove that vampires and werewolves don't exist?" Unfortunately, Stirling's Draca would not be the only controversy he would cause among alternate historians. From what I can tell, Stirling has a long history of being outspoken on various political issues, and sometimes takes positions that some would consider extreme. I won't go into too many details, because Warping History is meant to look at the online community as a whole. It is not meant to condemn or condone the politics of any individual member. But if you are interested in learning more, look up Michael Pound from Harry Turtledove's Southern Victory series. He is a Tuckerization of Stirling, and there is a scene from one of his last appearances in the series that is inspired directly from a flame war Stirling caused online. Eventually, though, people got tired of Stirling's politics, and after he allegedly made disparaging comments about Muslims, he was banned from AlternateHistory.com by Ian in 2007. Bans for positions on politics or religion are not unheard of on AlternateHistory.com, but Stirling's ban was significant because it was a professional alternate history author who also had a significant impact in shaping the modern genre, getting banned from the largest gathering of alternate historians on the internet. Although I wasn't an active member of AlternateHistory.com at the time, I remember it being a big deal, with a lot of debates about whether Ian was right in banning Stirling. In fact, several prominent members either left the forum in protest or were banned, like well-known map maker Diamond. Stirling's ban, however, showcases a very important aspect of the online community of alternate historians, and that is, they're not fans. In an interview I did with him, Ian Montgomery said, "I actually don't think of the people on my website as fans. Being a fan of something usually refers to cheering on somebody else. Sports fans watch sports, but don't necessarily play them. Star Wars fans watch Star Wars, but don't make movies," and so on. The alternate history community on the web is almost entirely about people creating their own stuff, discussing it, and debating it. There's very little time devoted to talking about professionally published alternate history. Personally, I think Ian makes a good point. Although they may read published works of alternate history, alternate historians think of themselves as creators first. Thus, someone who publishes their work professionally is held in the same regard as someone who self-publishes on the internet. Thus, professional creators are subject to the same rules the community has established to govern itself, giving alternate historians an egalitarian aspect to their culture not seen in some fandoms, which is a good thing in my opinion. So while Stirling's ban was certainly not fun for anybody involved, it was still an important event regarding how alternate historians treat each other. Sterling's ban for AlternateHistory.com, however, wasn't the only crisis that rocked the online alternate history community. In 2006, the Il Bethesad had what their contributors called the June Revolt, after older members expressed dissatisfaction with how the Il Bethesad wiki, which has been created the year before, became the main platform of the timeline. After months of debate, the wiki became closed to new non-members, and discussion moved back to the mailing list, Con Culture. In that same year, the other Timelines community collapsed, with members migrating either to AlternateHistory.com or to another small forum called Alternia. Known for being a politically conservative alternative to AlternateHistory.com, which was seen as being more liberal in its politics, Alternia collapsed as well a year later due to infighting between members, which was also the same year I became a moderator for Alternia. I swear to God, those two things had nothing to do with each other. This left AlternateHistory.com with few competitors as the premier forum for alternate stories on the internet, save for the Alt History Wiki, which was created in 2005 by a user named Nick, and in many ways can be considered a spiritual successor to Il Bethesad, since many veteran contributors from that timeline joined and introduced policies first created for that project. Unlike Il Bethesad, the Alt History Wiki was open to multiple alternate historians, and a naming convention was adopted so users could tell their products apart. Many timeline and Alt History Wiki are collaborative projects, which distinguishes it from AlterNateHistory.com, where timelines posted there are usually the work of one author. The two forums do share some similarities. For example, the Alt History Wiki has their own awards, the Sterling Awards, which they named after S.M. Sterling. The rivalry between the two forums, however, means that users don't always get along. The Alt History Wiki is probably best known for the shared timeline 1983 Doomsday, which is set in a world where a nuclear war happened in 1983 between the United States and the Soviet Union. Originally posted by an anonymous user, it was adopted in 2008 by a user named Zai Rennie, who opened the timeline to multiple contributors, making it one of the largest projects on the Alt History Wiki. The timeline has received mainstream media attention and inspired its own fanfiction on AlterNateHistory.com and elsewhere. Another notable Alt History Wiki timeline includes Welsh History Post Glyndŵr, and hopefully I didn't butcher that pronunciation, where Wales wins back its independence from England in the 15th century, which has been recognized by some members of AlterNateHistory.com as a quality work of alternate history fiction. Unfortunately, the Alt History Wiki has suffered over the years from pervasive internet trolls, inactive moderators, and a shifting focus to map games rather than collaborative alternate histories. I don't know. Having once been active on the wiki, maybe I'm just being an old fart who can't handle change, but in my personal opinion, the Alt History Wiki is only a shell of its former self. So yeah, this episode was kind of a downer, but stay tuned, because now we're going to move into the 2010s and see what alternate historians do with new media like podcast and YouTube. In the meantime, if you like what I do, please comment, subscribe, share this video, support me on Patreon. I'm Matt Mitrich, the Alternate Historian. Bye.